Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Real Madrid, Roma. Real Madrid kick off their European title defense in fine fashion, defeating Roma. But how did they do it without Cristiano Ronaldo? Did Roma offer Real Madrid any sort of threat? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to break down how Real Madrid beat Roma. So Real Madrid, Roma, two of last year's semifinalists. Real Madrid went on to win the Champions League. Roma so close to getting to the final, only to lose to Liverpool. Both sides looking to replicate their form from last season's competition now. In today's video, normally here at the interviews, we do break down games, try to find out how sides did well, where did they go wrong. But in today's video, Real Madrid were so dominant and they won the game so comfortably that we're going to break it down into two halves. The first half, how Real Madrid dominated. In the second half, what Real Madrid did to kill off the game and how Roma offered a brief fight back. But first, let's get to the lineups. We have Real Madrid in a 4-3-3. Isco slots into the lineup. He did score the equalizer against Bilbao, which means Asensio goes to the bench, and that was warranted, which means it was Isco, Benzema, and Bale up front. In midfield, no surprises. Modric, Kroos, Casemiro. The only change at the back was Keylor Navas starting in goal instead of Thibaut Courtois. And then at the back, you have Marcelo, Carvajal, Ramos, Varane. No surprises there. We go to Roma, making a few changes following a 2-2 draw over the weekend. Dzeko starts up front. Under and El Shaarawy out in wider areas. In midfield, we see Daniele De Rossi slot in with Nzonzi and Zaniolo making his Roma debut. What a big game for him to start. And then in the back, no real surprises there. Kolarov, Florenzi out at fullback, and then at the back they go with Fazio and Manola. So like I said in today's video, we have to start with the first half and how Real Madrid got started and dominated the opening period. So much of the first half was dominated by Real Madrid. The way that they moved forward, the way that they pressed to ensure that Roma couldn't play out of the back. Roma didn't have much going forward in the sense that they couldn't create chances from open play. And when they did hit on the counter, they often made the wrong decision or couldn't break forward as a unit to offer the supply to the attackers. So when we look at it, first let's start with the way Real Madrid pressed. They didn't want Roma to build out of the back because De Rossi is able to dictate the tempo of the play from deeper positions. We saw last night that Marquinhos isn't that player, although Liverpool's press did negate any opportunity for us to see that. Here, what happened with Real Madrid was that they had Bale and Benzema push out to Fazio and Manolas. Modric, who often played higher for the opening 25 minutes or so, stepped towards De Rossi, who dropped deeper. That allowed Isco to often keep his position, and he moved out into the left-hand side, and that was pivotal for what he was trying to do to ensure that Florenzi couldn't get on the ball. And then out on Kolarov's side, what happens is that Carvajal pushed forward. It ensured they had markers in midfield, and if they needed Varane or Ramos to push out to El Shaarawy, that was a case for them. So they weren't really troubled in that sense, and Roma never really played out of the back. So when you look at that, Roma often were dropped off into more of a 4-5-1 without the ball, trying to ensure that they could stop Real Madrid from playing between the lines, stop Real Madrid from pushing forward and creating chances, and hoping that they could spring on the counterattack through Under and through El Shaarawy playing off of Dzeko. However, Real Madrid were strong in the sense that all of their attacking players played a key role. So we're going to break down each key role here as quick as possible. First, we're going to start with Gareth Bale. His pace was a big problem throughout in the sense that they couldn't really deal with him. And when you look at the individual battle, Bale against Kolarov, you favor Bale. And with Kolarov often breaking forward, trying to help out El Shaarawy in attack, that allowed Bale to drive into that space in transition, and we saw that. But in the opening minutes, we saw Toni Kroos pick up the ball from deep, not really close down. We saw Bale just make a simple run off Kolarov, bring down the ball, should score, but he flashed his shot inches wide. That was a big warning sign. When we look at it as a whole, two chances in particular where you just have Modric and you have Casemiro winning the ball in midfield and instantly with Kolarov a bit higher, pumping that ball into that space for Bale to run onto. However, they didn't lead to goal scoring opportunities, but it was a warning sign, and it was an issue that Roma had to figure out because, like I said, they aren't that great at keeping goals out of the net, but when you look at the individual battles, the midfield pairing aren't great defenders individually, and as a pairing, not the greatest. Out in the fullback areas, Florenzi and Kolarov are more renowned for pushing forward rather than being natural defenders, and that was a big problem that happened there. Then we look to Benzema. His movement was great. He had a great combination with Bale, and he often dropped off a bit deeper. We saw on 2 occasions where he dropped off deep into midfield. The first time swinging out to Bale, he was able to cut in on Kolarov and fire a shot that probably should have went on goal, but it didn't. And then we look at another opportunity where he dropped off a bit deeper, clipped it out to Bale, and Bale's cross into the box was cleared by De Rossi. But again, we saw what Benzema could offer there. And then when he moved out to the left-hand side, there was still more of a threat, or the right-hand side, there was still more of a threat. One time where him and Bale combined to pull Kolarov out of position, the 1-2. What happens now is that Benzema makes a charging run into that space. He tries to get the pullback across, but De Rossi was able to cover and make an intervention. De Rossi was good in the first half in the sense that he was breaking up play. He looked like the only Roma player who was willing to fight for the team and make vital interceptions, and that was pivotal. What about Bale and Benzema? Again, this was more about Bale or Benzema in the sense that he fights off Fazio. There's a loose ball. He fights off Fazio and he fights off Manolas. And then Modric picks up the loose ball, charges forward. What happens now here is that he ends up playing the ball into Benzema. And what happens there is that he gets it back and we see Bale make the run through midfield, again looking to get the ball in the half space. He gets it, but it's De Rossi again coming across to intervene, and that was a big issue for them. But that was a lot of what Real Madrid were doing down that side. Bale was combining with Benzema. Bale was getting behind Kolarov, and then we get to Isco. Well, before we get to Isco, they did have a threat out in the fullback area, and once again, we've seen Real Madrid throughout the years. Their fullbacks have been key to their success. They provide the width because we're wondering, where's Real Madrid going to get the guile? Where are they going to get the penetration? As they dropped off a bit deeper, this was a reoccurring theme, and we saw it. You have Real Madrid. They're going to push forward. Casemiro, we had Modric, and we had Cruz pushing forward. What happens here is that Marcelo's going to pull forward. Under's tucked in because Isco's often driving into these pockets of spaces or staying narrow to get on the ball, looking to cut in. And now you have Marcelo against Florenzi, or if you push Under out there when Isco drives out there. Regardless, he's a threat. He didn't really offer much of a goal-scoring threat, but he did deliver a cross into the box. That was pushed away by Olsen, and he delivered another one that no one really attacked, but that was a big warning sign for Real Madrid. But it was Carvajal who offered the biggest threat, solely based on the fact that one, El Shaarawy was getting tucked in tight, and he wasn't really looking to track the run. And then Kolarov was tucked in narrow as well, and he wasn't looking to track the run. We saw Isco on 2 occasions getting the ball in these deeper positions, playing the ball to the back post. Carvajal was able to break in. The first time he did, he directed the ball across goal, but Manolas cleared it. That was one opportunity. Again, less than maybe 30 seconds later, he clips the same ball in, and what happens here? He breaks off by El Shaarawy, by Kolarov, but he nods his effort at the keeper, and that was a big warning sign for Real Madrid. But again, that was a big warning sign for Roma, but again, Real Madrid offering that threat in those wider areas. Cruz, later on in the half, was also able to deliver a similar ball, but that time he was just only able to guide his pullback cross into Olsen. Real Madrid were threatening. They were constantly offering a threat in midfield through the fullbacks. Isco again offering a threat because he's able to pop up in these pockets of spaces to find the ball, deliver, trying to orchestrate play from that side of the pitch. He was creating all sorts of havoc in terms of just getting the ball, retaining it, switching the play, trying to find those combinations. But besides all the other Real Madrid chances, there was really nothing there that really troubled Roma. Roma were in a big issue, and there was one play again where Bale had the ball in the right-hand side. He picked up Modric, got the ball back, played it back into him in that half space. De Rossi comes across, he turns. What does he see? Isco making that darting run into midfield. No one tracks the run in midfield. He's able to get the ball into the box. He should score, but he doesn't. Again, a big warning sign. Even when you look at the goal, it's Roma sitting back in that bank. What happens here? Casemiro gets onto the ball. He's able to find Isco and Benzema within close proximity. Isco back heels the ball to Benzema. What happens here? It goes between Fazio and De Rossi. Benzema's going to play it back to him, but De Rossi pulls him down. Isco curls a superb opener past Olsen. Real Madrid are up 1-0, but when you break it down as a whole, Real Madrid found avenues out in wide areas to create chances. Bale against Kolarov wasn't a fair fight, to be honest, and he was able to cut in on Fazio when Fazio pushed over. Benzema was offering you that all-round play. Cruz was dictating the tempo, playing balls over the top. So was Modric, misplacing a few passes in the first half, but offering a defensive presence with Casemiro to ensure that they won the ball in midfield. And then you have the guile of Isco, allowing Marcelo to get forward, involved in the goal, probably should have scored another one, and Real Madrid were in cruise control, and this was about how Roma were going to change things in the second half to try and rescue a point or perhaps win the game. So first, let's get to how Roma changed things in the second half in terms of where they found their brief little spell. It stemmed down the right flank, 4 under to get behind Marcelo. There were a few phases where perhaps they should have scored. It started early on. It ended towards around the 75th minute mark. But Roma had quality chances that they probably should have converted. And it just stemmed from a weak point that Real Madrid have seen happen often throughout this season. It's just attacking space behind either Carvajal or Marcelo. Today it was on Marcelo, and Under had a few chances to really get it going, and it started with Roma just being a bit more proactive and the fact that they had to chase the lead. Real Madrid's pressing kind of dying down a bit, as like we see it's Florenzi getting the ball, and what happens here is that Cruz is the one stepping out, and when Cruz steps out he plays it into Under, which sucks in Marcelo. Florenzi had already bypassed Cruz, so the pass is then played back, and when Dzeko drops off, Florenzi's able to play it into Dzeko. We have Under already running off Marcelo before Casemiro could come across. The pass is played in. He's able to skip past Ramos, who has already been booked, cuts in, fires a shot on goal, and Navas pushes it away for a corner kick. That was one opportunity. When we get everyone back into their base shape, what happens next is the fact that this one is even worse on Marcelo. It's just a simple punt out, and through this we have already seen Pellegrini come into midfield as a substitute. Perotti comes in for El Shaarawy down the left-hand side. What we see here is the long ball being punted into Pellegrini. Pellegrini is there. Marcelo, for some reason, decides to pinch, and when he does pinch, what happens is that it frees up space for Under to break on in behind him, because Pellegrini flicks it onto him, and what happens here is that Ramos comes across. He's able to beat Ramos again, but Casemiro sweeps up. Casemiro had a good second half. He was breaking up play when Roma did have chances. That was a key role for him, and he did a good job there. Then, as the half wore on, we eventually saw Patrick Schick come on for Nzonzi. Roma became more of what you could say it was a 4-2-3-1. You could say it was a 4-2-4, whatever you want to call it, but they had 4 attackers up front, and this was a severe breakdown here. And this is something that you should not see happen, especially for a side like Real Madrid. Again, it's Cruz coming across to try and break up that play for Florenzi. You have Marcelo just sitting back there, and what happens, he's not marking anyone. Under is behind him, and that's the biggest problem. You have Schick kind of dropping off, and with Schick dropping off, you expect something to happen here. Casemiro follows him. Ramos is starting to step a bit, so Florenzi plays the pass into Schick. What happens here is that they gamble. Ramos and Casemiro gamble. What happens there is that he gets the ball back. Schick plays the ball back to Pellegrini. Pellegrini is able to drive in under down that flank. Now defenders have to shift over, and what you have here is a 2v2. And what happens is that Under doesn't make the right decision because Schick is able to break in. He plays it back to Schick as Schick fires his effort over the net. Big chance here for Roma to create chances. They exploited the space behind Marcelo, but they were unable to convert. The only other opportunity that they really did have was down the flank via Kolarov. And what happens there is that those chances just stemmed from, again, just Madrid. Eventually, as a half were on, Bale and Isco weren't really tracking back, or they were out of position in terms of breaking forward. And what happens is that when they're out of position, they need the wide players, the shuttlers in Modric or Cruz to come over across to block off any balls in. So the first time was from a simple throw-in. Modric doesn't get out quick enough, and his cross into the box, he's Under, get in behind the defense, not his effort on goal or towards goal. That Navas pushes off a defender, and then it goes out for a corner kick. The second one, what happens here is that Casemiro's a bit deeper in the box, and with Casemiro deeper in the box, we see Daniele De Rossi step to him, and he gives the ball away to Under, and Under ends up directing it to Nzonzi, who then directs it to Kolarov. Modric doesn't get out quick enough again, and he fires a shot on goal that Navas pushes away for a corner kick. When you break it down, Roma got back into the game in terms of obviously being more proactive, pushing forward. Real Madrid's pressing levels dipping off as they were looking to drop off a bit, and at times some of these chances were when they were up 2-0. But again, finding space behind Marcelo, not getting players out to Kolarov, who did offer off an offensive threat if he's in those positions, and Real Madrid got a bit lucky, but now we get to what they did right in the second half to kill off the game. But Real Madrid dominated the second half in two different phases. The first 15 minutes was about Modric and Isco and about Real Madrid breaking on the counterattack. It was Real Madrid pushing forward, again locating space behind Florenzi and getting their attackers to push forward because they needed a goal. They were trying to rescue the game, but at the same time, we saw the brilliance of Isco and why he's so important to this team. He could drift out wide and get on the ball. He was often moving from the left-hand side. He could push forward and offer that threat. And if not, he could drop into these pockets of spaces here, offer a fourth man in midfield to ensure that Real Madrid can overload that central area and dictate the tempo of the game. We think about the chance that they did create, again, the first 15 minutes about getting Bale into good positions and about Modric and Isco being the ticking time bombs, the catalyst in the attack to make the difference. Look at the first opportunity. It's a counterattack. It's Isco backheeling the ball into Modric, who slides in Benzema down that space right there. I think it was Kolarov and Florenzi this time in that space as they were recovering. He breaks free, but he takes a bit too long. Still finds Bale breaking into the box, but Bale scuffs his effort over the net. That was one opportunity that they did have. There was another opportunity where you have Isco picking up the ball on the left in a wider position, then finding Marcelo in that narrow space right there, and he's able to poke the ball into Bale, but Bale can only fire his effort off the crossbar. Again, warning signs down the left and nothing being done about it. You think that was bad? There was more from Isco again. This time it's instinctively pushing to the left-hand side, getting onto the ball. What we do see here from Marcelo, which is really great, is the fact that Marcelo runs and he drags Florenzi with him as he makes that underlapping run, which allows Isco to come across. And what we see here is Modric making the run in behind Kolarov and Fazio. Isco picks him out, but he's only able to poke his effort at the keeper. Isco was creating, Modric was getting into key positions, and then we get Bale's goal. Again, it stems from Florenzi being quite high, and what do we see? It's Casemiro winning the ball. He ends up clipping it out to Isco, and Zonzi comes across, but Isco instantly plays it into Modric, and what do we have here? Space, and Bale is there. Ball slid in behind Manolas for Bale. It's a race. Bale fires his effort past the keeper. Changes are made. We see Benzema come off for Asensio, which pushes Bale out into a central position. That never really worked out. Then we see Mariano come in, and with Mariano, he has the pace to offer a threat. Again, we see Isco just pulling into a pocket of space, receiving the ball, dragging out Florenzi, clipping it out to Mariano, who breaks beyond Fazio. Fazio keeps him where he should be, but he pokes the ball into the path of Cruz. Cruz doesn't really have anything. He's able to come across and force Olsen into a save. There was another opportunity where Casemiro had won the ball off Schick, and we see Mariano break forward, skip a few challenges, and break into that half. And what happens there is that it leads to the ball being cleared out to Isco. Isco's able to dribble towards goal. We see Asensio breaking in, and at this point, you have the numbers there. This is one of the better chances. He pokes the ball into Asensio, who turns superbly, and he bypasses Pellegrini and he bypasses De Rossi, but his no-look pass is saved by Olsen. The goal itself, the third goal, it's just simple. It's just, again, already Roma's heads were down. Marcelo's able to run past Under, slip the ball into Mariano, who cuts in on his marker, curls his effort past the keeper. But when we break it down as a whole, Roma had their chances behind Marcelo. Kolarov had his chances, but Real Madrid kept going. Isco was a key catalyst in the second half and throughout the game, finding pockets of space, helping Real Madrid overload central areas, dragging players out of position on the left-hand side. Modric was more influential in the second half as well. And in the first half, all of Real Madrid's key players were taking, this is the best we've seen Real Madrid play in years, and now the question is, can they go one further? Can they retain the title? Can they win La Liga? So many questions to answer, but again, we have a lot of football to play, and for Roma, where do they go from here? But meet me in the comments below. Do you think Real Madrid can challenge and win the Champions League this season? What about Roma? Another semi-final appearance. Will they get out of the group stage? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget, I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.